Let's go ahead and transition to this next piece. It's not as bad situation in Russia, but their people are going to suffer with the consequences of this as well. I am reflecting in my monologue about how quickly things have escalated and how things that were like completely off the table just a couple weeks ago are now being rushed through with little thought, little debate, little reflection. So in particular, at the beginning of this, we were all thinking that SWIFT sanctions was as far as this would possibly, that was the furthest extreme of what was being contemplated. And we just, rushed right past that. Oh, by the way, we're also going to sanction your central bank. Oh, by the way, we're also going to ban Russian oil. And then you have all of these Western companies sort of looking at the writing on the wall. This is not out of the goodness of their hearts, but they're under pressure and they see the writing on the wall. They're all exiting Russia. And the latest is you have, the Russians making really clear, the Russian government making really clear that they consider this to be all-out economic war. Let's go ahead and put that tear sheet up on the screen. This is actually from these comments about economic banditry are from a couple days ago. The most recent is the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, said the West had declared an economic war on Russia, and they are waging this war. He said, you see the bacchanalia, the hostile bacchanalia. Is that how you say that?
I think so.
The West has sown.
Wow. They really have a flourish for the dramatic.
They do. Yeah. I mean, there's a very rich cultural tradition in Russia that no one could possibly deny. But so they definitely, we've done this from our population standpoint, kind of casually, with little debate, and a lot of just everybody pushing, what can we do more? How can we do more? These sanctions are effectively the sort of global financial death penalty and really do make Russia a total pariah state. The impact is already being felt very much by the Russian public. These are completely indiscriminate weapons, and they will impact every single ordinary Russian citizen, even the ones who are anti-war and, all of the ones who have nothing to do with any of this conflict. Let's go ahead and put this next piece up on the screen, which shows just the complete exodus of Western companies from Russia. I mean, everybody from McDonald's to Starbucks, Coke, Pepsi, they are all leaving the country, General Electric as well. This article notes that some of those companies have really long histories operating in Russia. They point out that PepsiCo entered the Russian market in the early 60s at the height of the Cold War and helped to create common ground between the US and the Soviet Union. I didn't know that. This part I did know. McDonald's famously, one of the first US fast food companies to open a store in Russia on January 31, 1990. Thousands of Russians lined up to try a hamburger at the first McDonald's in Moscow. By the end of the day, 30,000 meals had been rung up on 27 cash registers. That was an opening day record for the company and kind of a, seminal moment in the opening up of Russia.
That was a huge moment. I went back and watched the TV news clips of them being interviewed, and people were like, I don't know what I just ate, but it was good. That was a direct quote from some old guy who lived through the entire Soviet Union. Yeah, I mean, these cultural ties, this is what the real soft power of the United States is, which is both a dark thing, but also empirically true.
Yeah.
Like McDonald's, Starbucks, Coke, Pepsi, Subway, these things are places you can't go anywhere in the world without seeing them. This is a power projection. I also just want to remind people of this, which is that it is not out of the goodness of these companies' hearts. As we have said before, the sanctions make it so that about 85 to 90% of this, it's happening anyway, especially whenever they have to do legal compliance.
They can't really do business
If
there
you
anymore.
can't wire your money back, there's no point except to stop doing business.
Yeah.
They're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. Here's what happened. They asked their lawyers, is there any way that we can get around this? And the lawyers were like, no. So they're like, okay, I'll go ahead and just issue a PR statement and be like, in solidarity with Ukraine, we're pulling out. No. This is all based on policy. So at the same time, though, this is a significant pullout. I mean, McDonald's had 850 stores in the country. I mean, think about Coke and Pepsi. You can go to the poorest village in Thailand, as I have, and you can still drink a Pepsi or a Coke. And that's now something you cannot get inside of Russia. This is straight up back to the days where they were begging people for blue jeans to come into the country in terms of what it looks like from their experience.
I read a couple interesting reports from the ground. One was that before everything closed, they were, Russians were like lining up at the IKEA
and
other places to try to like, this is like my last chance to get that whatever weirdly named table that I want or whatever.
Skarsgård night table.
Exactly. So, there's a real run on these stores. I heard an interview of someone who was having a coffee at a Starbucks who was very anti-war and was, saying like there was no justification for this and this is going to be, the Ukrainians are suffering so much and this is also going to be bad for us, although our sort of suffering pales in comparison, obviously, to what they're going through. So I also saw a report that they're considering nationalizing the assets of these companies that leave, which is a real like, all right, get out and stay out.
Well, that's a Venezuela move. That's what they did in Venezuela. It would make sense, actually, in order to cope with sanctions.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see. And then I think there's something that I'm starting to sort of reflect on, which is the whole idea of how we won the Cold War was really through this projection of soft power and like, the promise of blue jeans and Coca-Cola. And it's possible that after, a number of decades with blue jean and Coca-Cola, the consumerism is a little bit hollow, and we did the shock doctrine economically. We, helped to create this system of rapacious oligarchs. We didn't focus on helping to build real democratic institutions. Of course, our country, is pretty shaky on that ground anyway. But it'll be interesting to see what the reaction and the backlash is domestically in Russia to the flight of all of these Western brands in such a short period of time. I mean, a total transformation of the urban landscape there.
And of their lives. I mean, this is the last iPhone they're ever going to have. They don't even have phones. Like, they don't have phone companies in order to do. I don't know what they're going to do. Guess Nokia, maybe if they also do business with them. But that's about it. The most significant one in the near term, let's put this up there on the screen, which is that Russia could default as soon as next month. This is per Morgan Stanley, but a lot of the other big banks concur. The analysts are comparing it to Venezuela in terms of its default on foreign debt soon. Obviously, that could also have a pretty big impact, both on the Russian, but on the broader global financial system. Yeah. Because as we were explaining in the beginning of this crisis, a lot of people were holding Russian bonds and Russian debt and were using that as collateral for other loans. And then the moment that the sanctions hit, those bonds all went to zero on the balance sheets of the banks, which required them to margin call all of these billionaires. Yeah. Like, do not underestimate how much of the sketchy Swiss, German, and Cypriotic financial system is based upon shady Russian money, and also amongst billionaires and other rich people in those countries leveraging Russian debt and other things in order to take out loans. This could have a cascading effect throughout the financial system, and also obviously it will zero out a huge amount of wealth inside of Russia itself. So I look beyond McDonald's and Coca-Cola, and I just think about, you can't use your Visa, you can't use your debit card, you can't use your credit card, your Apple Pay is done. You can no longer use Netflix. All of the comforts of daily life, the accoutrement of any sort of connection to the Western life, which even the Chinese middle class, the Indian middle class, the middle class of Asia and Africa have, that is no longer there for you. Your life is over in any sense of how you know it. Even cars, their biggest import is cars from South Korea and Japan. That's not going to happen anymore. Yeah. They're not going to be able to replace their cars. They're not going to be able to replace their phones. They're basically, as we said, they're getting sold to the Chinese for a song. I hope everybody there starts to learn Mandarin soon, because you're going to need it. It's a total transformation of life.
Yeah, and like that.
Yeah.
And already, because of this potential for a debt default, you have Russia's central bank limiting withdrawals of foreign currency from Russian banks, right, prohibiting banks from selling foreign currency. And the analysts are saying that debt default could happen as early as April 15th, because that will mark the end of a 30-day grace period on coupon payments that the Russian government owes on dollar bonds. So, this is a dramatic economic transformation. What I saw, it's like, especially if Europe follows through with a Russian oil ban as well, you're talking about GDP shrinking potentially 15% in a year. That is just a stunning, stunning collapse. Not to mention, like you said, this, dramatic sort of lifestyle change. Right. And we don't know what the numbers are, but there are reports that there are many thousands of Russians who are fleeing the country, and a potential sort of brain drain ongoing right now. The last thing I want to say in this part is, I don't know if do you guys remember Maria Butina?
Yes, yeah.
This lady,
you were telling me about this.
Yeah, she was like kind of connected to the Russiagate stuff because it was like, see, there's an action. And she legit was like a Russian spy who had infiltrated these sort of Republican circles, in particular the NRA. And she was dating this big Republican donor. It was a whole thing during Russiagate.
She went to the Russian bar that I like here in DC.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, Russia House, which was then vandalized.
Which is now vandalized. Yeah. And you said it's not even owned by Russians, actually.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay, we don't know. But even if it is, you shouldn't vandalize it. Right. They have nothing to do with this, okay? We're going to talk to Anna more about that. Right. But so she served time in prison. Then she went back to Russia. She became a member of parliament in Russia. And she did this bonkers interview on BBC yesterday. I got to give credit to their interviewers are very good at like they're very effective. And it's also to me very interesting in an argument against the sort of censorship and deplatforming that they routinely have on Russians who are Kremlin loyalists just to see like, how are they pitching this? How are they portraying this? And the level of propaganda, I don't know if she really believes this or not, but she basically accused the Ukrainians of bombing their own cities. Yeah, she said that. They're bombing themselves. Yeah, that they're it was bonkers. She was like, he said, so you don't believe that you don't accept that Russians are bombing civilians. She's like, we don't do that. And he said, oh, what about Syria? What about Chechnya? You know, I mean, it was really something. So it just shows you, especially with the complete crackdown now on any sort of independent media, shutdowns of social media in Russia, there is an impenetrable wall of complete alternative reality that is being sold to people there. So we have to keep that in mind as we're watching the reaction from the Russian public as best we can.
Right.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.